Most people think that $871,000 is more than enough to retire, especially if you have a pension to go with. But what if I told you that depending on how you spend it, that number could leave you financially exposed within just 12 years? I've seen far too many 60-year-olds step into retirement believing that they're set, only to discover the biggest risk, it wasn't the market crash or inflation, it was spending more than their plan could afford. And yet, with the right plan structure, that same $871,000 could support a confident and sustainable retirement. That's exactly what we're going to be breaking down in today's video. I'm going to walk you through a real life retirement case study. Someone age 50 with $871,000 saved. You can see exactly what that number can do and what it can't do, and a bit about how to guide our clients. My name is Boughan. I'm a certified financial planning professional, and I have consulted with hundreds of pre-retirees to answer these sorts of questions with clarity. How much can I actually spend without running out? In this video, we will walk through why even solid savings can leave you vulnerable with a defined spending, how retirement timing and monthly costs can change everything, and most importantly, how to model a plan that shows exactly how far your money can go. So let's meet Jean. She's 60, she's a single widow and a nurse who spent her career at hospitals in the state of Massachusetts. She raised a daughter on her own and now actively supports 4 grandchildren and her daughter, not just emotionally and with her free time, but financially as well. Jane's managed to save $871,000 over the years in her 401k account, an HSA account, and a modest checking account. And she also has a house valued at $785,000, but she has a mortgage with a current balance at almost $500,000. For income, Jane earns a healthy salary of $175,000 and has a modest pension from her previous employer that will assure her approximately $3,000 per month in retirement. And this is alongside her Social Security. She is only a 30-year mortgage on a large house, a home she chose because of the extra bedrooms and proximity to family, which gives her the ability to easily host her 4 grandkids. Jean hopes to retire in the next 4 years, but with $8,000 per month in expenses, much of which is the cost to sustain a large mortgage through those years, she is unsure if those savings are enough to support her goals. She was unsure exactly how to claim Social Security as well. Health-wise, she's doing well, but she's seen what aging looks like firsthand with her 90-year-old mother who now requires attention regularly. Jane is tired. She loves her job, but it's exhausting her to keep up with work and family. She is ready for the next chapter. The big problem here, her life is expensive, and her heart often overrules her head. She wonders, can I keep spending like this in retirement? She now regrets buying such a large house, yet she can't imagine selling it. She's proud of supporting her family, but worried she won't be able to maintain that support without jeopardizing her future. Jean has always assumed 401k calculators at work had given her good feedback about high savings levels in her retirement accounts, telling her that she was on track throughout her career. But they don't account for her pension, her mortgage, her actual spending patterns, which could be unique to her as a single adult. She also was assuming that her HSA house savings account was invested. But when we reviewed, we determined that $30,000 in the HSA account was sitting in cash. There is an automatic investment plan available, but she was not familiar with the procedure and how to do this and how to balance the investing of the account with maintaining some cash in case she wanted to make distribution. She also leans on her employer's automated 401k investment advisor, but never realized that her investment allocation is based on a generic risk tolerance questionnaire, not her personal goals or any evaluation of Jean's personal attitude towards investments. One of Jean's biggest blind spots was that she knows that she needs $8,000 per month today, but she forgot to include healthcare costs and the possibility of end-of-life care costs in her financial plan. If she retires at 64, she will need to determine a private health plan, which could be a high expense in year one. For people retiring before 65, Affordable Care Act subsidies may be a strong planning opportunity. But not in this case, as Jean is relying on Social Security and pensions as a critical part of her plan and has almost all pre-tax assets available for supplementing her retirement. This eliminated any of the benefits of planning in this case. Lastly, Jean had questions about whether a Roth conversion made sense. If any of Jean's story feels familiar and maybe you want to travel or just retire sooner, you're wondering whether the numbers stack up, then I want to extend something to you. If you find the rest of the video valuable and you want to go beyond just learning what to change and actually see what your own future could look like, then I've opened up a few available spots for a free mini planning session. All you have to do is click the link in the description below and fill out the questionnaire. And as it all works out, we will send you a completely free video walking through the key circumstances, timelines, risks, and opportunities that we see based on your profile. Now, let me show you exactly what we uncovered when we ran Jane's plan through our projections. First, we modeled Jane's cash flow in retirement to determine what types of withdrawals she'll have to make to meet this type of need. Then we determine if her retirement aspirations are feasible or not. To start, we break down Jean's retirement income sources. She has an annual income from her pension. When we combine that with her income she expects to take from Social Security, we have an income net of tax from her fixed sources at about $66,200. After we figure out the difference between her needs and income sources, we can determine how much she needs to draw on from her portfolio. In this case, Jean needs about $55,000. Annual portfolio withdrawal needs to be about $68,500 from her accounts, since all of her retirement savings are currently pre-tax. When we modeled the viability of Jean's plan using her current spending pattern adjusted for inflation, a $400,000+ mortgage, and a 50% equity allocation, the results were eye-opening. At her planned retirement at age 64, her plan runs out of money by age 80. Given her mother's longevity, who is currently still living at 90, this was particularly concerning analysis for Jane. But here's what happens. When we explore key adjustments, the first adjustment was the equity allocation. We discussed our retirement portfolio philosophy, which centers on a two-bucket approach. The first bucket is designed to protect against short-term market volatility, and it consists of 3 to 7 years worth of retirement expenses in moderately conservative investment. The second bucket is a growth-oriented bucket composed of diversified equity investments meant for long-term potential capital appreciation. For Jane, we determined that she would need about $68,000 annually from her portfolio. And based on our discussions of risk tolerance, we determined that about 4 years of expenses should be set aside in this more conservative bucket, which amounted to about 30% of her retirement savings. This gave her confidence that she could cover any near-term needs, even in a fairly severe market downturn, while still positioning the remaining 70% in equities for higher long-term growth potential. We adjusted her portfolio to reflect this 70% equity allocation and showed how this shift, combined with proper short-term protection, increased the longevity of her plan into her late 80s and beyond. This strategy helps Jane with assurance that her portfolio has some protection against market shocks while still allowing more of her wealth to grow and a potential for an improved long-term financial outcome for her. The second was HSA investing. While Jane had a blind spot of not factoring in her healthcare costs correctly for retirement, we also noticed that there were assets that could be better optimized. We needed to determine how to set up that plan to invest her $30,000 health savings account and how to get that invested when she continues to contribute to the plan. This added an additional growth potential for healthcare cost protection. If done correctly, it could amount to over $60,000 of potential funds that will be available in the future for healthcare. Additionally, we discussed with Jane how paying up her mortgage would help for home equity act as an end-of-life care or long-term care backstop to the risk of high costs later in life. Third, we discussed mid-retirement expenses. We explored how Jane's current lifestyle needs might evolve over time. While she's unwilling to sell her house now, it's realistic that in 20 to 25 years, her grandchildren will be grown. Her daughter may no longer need financial support, and the need for a large home to entertain family may no longer exist. It gives Jane a window where her expenses could naturally taper down. This is a concept supported by the retirement smile theory of spending. This theory is shown as a very consistent spending pattern in retirement data across thousands of retirees. It shows that spending patterns typically peak in the early go-go years of retirement, whether it's from caring for others or travel or just living a more active lifestyle. This dips during the slow-go years in the middle part of retirement and typically rises towards the end for increased healthcare needs. We built this tapering assumption into her plan, starting at year 10, reducing her projected expenses and helping stretch her portfolio. But we did talk about the downside of relying on this assumption. Lastly, from a Roth conversion standpoint, given her high income and forecasted lower tax rates in retirement, paying more tax now did not appear to be high value. Plus, we did this plan recently in 2025 after a tax policy changed, and her tax brackets are expected to be lower next year, making tax deferral in this year even higher value. Roth conversions may become a valuable opportunity once Jane transitions into retirement, but this will depend on her actual income, expenses at that time, which are still at least 4 years out. So we agreed the best course was to revisit this strategy annually for any tax savings potential for her. In the meantime, we make sure she's maximizing all of her current tax deferral opportunities through her workplace benefit. These 3 changes did come with trade-offs, which we discussed extensively with Jane, and agreed they would improve the outcome of her plan. While increasing the equity in her portfolio improves her projected results, it will raise the volatility of her investments and same with health savings account investments. But given this was done in a careful and measured way, and the fact that she still has some time with 4 years until her retirement date, she was comfortable with this trade-off. Additionally, since she currently supports her daughter and grandkids and does not want to cut back on this expense, it may be difficult to draw boundaries around spending later in life if it doesn't naturally taper off. This could present risks of overspending her portfolio during retirement in her plan. She was okay with this and feels that the costs financially supporting her family are temporary. When all this was factored into her plan, it dramatically shifted the probability of success. In fact, when we reran the plan and reviewed the projections together, it showed an end of analysis projected wealth that was up over $800,000, significantly improved. Jean's instinct was right. She achieved a lot with her savings, but was not on track to be on the strongest position for retirement. With the right adjustments, she was shocked by how close she actually was to her goal. The modeling revealed that generic advice like the target date fund portfolio or a catch-all 4% rule completely overlooked the realities Jean was facing in her life. Her mortgage, family commitments, and deep emotional ties all mattered far more. We aligned her investment approach to her timeline and needs and comfort levels. We educated her about opportunities she had that she could make more of. We created a strategy to invest untapped assets like her health savings account and gave her a system to track progress so that she knows exactly where she stands. Now Jane has a plan and a financial planning partner. She left with more than just numbers. She left with more clarity and confidence in a real timeline that she feels confident she can aim for. And if you're sitting there and you're thinking, I have no idea if I can afford to retire like Jean did. For a limited time, I'm offering a handful of free retirement mapping sessions. If you click the link in the description, there is a brief questionnaire to apply for a free 5-minute financial planning feedback video. If you are a good fit in the questionnaire, I will personally send you a short video where I will walk through some basic numbers, a timeline, and any risks or opportunities that pop out as most relevant in your scenario. These mapping sessions are limited each week because I want to give each one my attention. So if you're even considering retiring soon or you're curious about where you stand, this is your chance to get some free feedback. Just click the link below in the description and it will be filled on a first come, first serve basis. So take a moment now and check that out. So what did we learn today? If you're 60 with $871,000 saved for retirement, it might not be off the table, but it might not be automatic either. The difference comes down to how you plan to spend, when you plan to retire, and whether that plan matches your lifestyle. For Jane, small adjustments created extra years of confidence, and that's the key. It's not about hitting that magic number. It's about making your money work for your life the way that you actually want. If you're wondering how far your savings can take you, the first step is modeling it. Click the link below and let's build a retirement plan that shows you clearly and confidently what's possible for you.